Hello and welcome back. This is the 2021 Texas All Region Etudes for Oboe, and this is number 24 in F sharp minor, part 3. We're looking at the middle of the etude, and we've got some great news for you today because a lot of this is repetition from the beginning. This section has a lot of similarities to the beginning, and then there's one very tricky leap near the end of it. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, let's review the rhythms and counting for this section. Ready? 1 and 2, 3, 1, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1, 3, 1 and 2, 3 and 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. 1 and 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Now let's look at the first 8 measures of this section, measures 29 through 37. They are exactly like measures 1 through 9. So I went back to the beginning of my music, all the marks I did for the previous video, part 1, and then I rewrote them at this section, including arrows, circling the skeleton, and the crescendo. Within those 8 measures, let's review the direction goals, just like measures 1 through 8. Measure 30, we have F sharp, 2 measures later G sharp, then A. So overall, we're headed to the A. And like the beginning, there's a section that should be played leggero, just like measures 5 through 8, and so I've marked it on the music as well. A light tongue, really not focused so much on staccato. Let's review what it would sound like legato if it were legato. Staccato. Now a leggero, something in the middle, light. Just like measures 1 through 8, the end of this section gives you an opportunity to save a little bit of finger travel if your G sharp key is in working order. Let's review how that happens. Play F sharp, and while you're holding it out, wiggle the G sharp key. Nothing should happen. If the note does not speak, or you hear wah, 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 your G sharp key articulated screw, the one that sticks up above the middle joint, that one needs to be adjusted. If it is in good working order like mine, then you can hold the G sharp key down for the entire last 5 notes, saving yourself a little bit of effort. With articulation. In context. Faster. Also, just like measures 1 through 8, we will add a little decrescendo at the end to shape the phrase. We just finished a crescendo, and now we'll bring it back again to make an arch effect with the contour of dynamics. Measures 38 through 40 are marked crescendo. I've circled it not in order to make more crescendo, but just to remind myself the crescendo lasts 3 measures. So I would encourage you to do like my music, make either a crescendo mark in the music or write the dots as I did it to remind you that the crescendo continues and it should not be just 1 measure, but a 3-measure crescendo. Now let's take a look at the most difficult part of this composition, this F sharp harmonic minor scale. You'll notice the accidental I've circled shows me that instead of E natural, I'm going to raise that a half step. And that means that in the scale, I'm going to go from F sharp to F to D natural, which is quite difficult. Our first step is to actually play the notes of the scale 1 octave up and down. F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, left E sharp, right, left F, and F sharp. The second step to this section is then playing the scale all the way up to high C sharp. The next part of learning this section is to play the scale down from C sharp. Now finally, the hardest part of all, the C sharp octaves. You're going to go from C sharp in the staff with the middle right little finger key, and then you've got to roll your finger to the low C key in order to play the C sharp correctly. That's difficult. You'll be practicing that octave many times, I promise you. I've already myself practiced it this year, maybe 200 or 300 over the last 5 or 6 weeks. You probably want to write in your journal to remind you every day you practice this etude, practice those octave leaps, C sharp to C sharp. It's worth one last reminder that in this scale, the E sharp is really left F and there's no getting around it. I don't think forked F is a great alternative. It will sound a little bit out of tune because F sharp to F natural, the out of tune half step will be heard pretty easily to the ear, especially at the area level. Finally, we've had a forte or a little bit more than forte even at the beginning of those last two measures. Add a little bit of a decrescendo so that you have somewhere to build again in the concluding section. As I've mentioned in the previous videos, always practice the etude or the section of etude you wish to concentrate on, slowly and focusing on tone quality. Even legato is a good idea at that early part of your practice session. Listen to the quality of sound, and when you're satisfied with that, then add articulations, and finally add changes in volume. As I've mentioned in the previous videos, journaling your progress is indispensable. Be sure that even if you only practice 2 measures that day, write down the 2 measures and the tempo you used and a small sentence or 2 short sentences about the reaction you had. How did it feel? Did you make any progress? Were you frustrated? Were you happy? You'll be glad that you kept a journal at the end of the All Region process to note the overall progress you made over the weeks and months preparing for the All Region auditions. This is the end of part 3.